Welcome to the Ringer Gambling Show, sponsored by FanDuel. I'm the prop queen, Ariel Epstein, and while our good friend John Yastrzemski is eating paella in Madrid after his Miami Dolphins overtime win over the Commanders in Madrid, we've got the rest of the team holding down the fort. Raheem Palmer with us, Brian Barrett filling in those shoes for JJ as he did for me when I was out. How are you guys, Raheem? You said you didn't love the slate this week for week 12?
No, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, I think last week was such a good week for me. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to repeat that, but hopefully I can.
Hey, listen, last week you had a good week, and we'll just run it back because Bodega Wax has to do better. Brian Barrett, welcome to the show again. How are you feeling about this upcoming week 12?
I'm excited because the first time since I've done shows at the Ringer, the Patriots have actually been good. We started my local pod in 2022, which was a miserable season when Matt Patricia was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. So right now we're feeling a lot better with Drake May.
This is the Ringer Gambling Show presented by FanDuel, the best place to bet the NFL all season long. FanDuel's got it all. Same game parlays, quick bets for jumping in live, and your way so you can build the bet that fits your play. In Missouri, get excited because FanDuel's coming your way December the 1st. Download FanDuel.com/gamblers to get started. Must be 21 plus in present select states and 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, and Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut.
Oh boy, well, you're not going to like how that line may be moving, but maybe it's all because the books are just trying to adjust to a potential Joe Burrow revival. Hey, I think that he's going to make a comeback for Thanksgiving night against my Baltimore Ravens. I've been predicting that since he got injured with turf toe. But again, it is not Thanksgiving just yet. We have another week to work out until we have to worry about Turkey Day. But we've got Thursday night football still, and it's the Bills Bills on the road at the Texans. The Bills -4.5 moved to -5.5, and the total 43.5. I thought it was interesting. Steam on the Bills. And we've got some injuries to the Texans. It's going to be Davis Mills under center again. So based on this low total at 43.5, Raheem, you looking towards an under?
Yeah, I'm going to go first half under. I like to play the first half unders because we all know in the NFL, things go haywire in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter. But you look at this Houston Texans team, we know that they struggle offensively. 27th in success rate on offense, 24th in EPA per play on offense, but on defense, they're one of the best teams in the league. You're talking about first in EPA per play, third in success rate. So I look at this offense and they struggle. I mean, they really struggle. I mean, you're talking about a team which is 31st in red zone touchdown percentage. So even if they get it to the red zone against this Buffalo Bills defense, which we know they can be run on, we know they can be passed on, I have my doubts about them being able to get it into the end zone. They only scored 16 points against a weak Titans defense. And I think the defense is strong enough to be able to limit Josh Allen early. And we know that the Bills like to run the ball. So I'm going to go first half under 22.5. Maybe the second half goes a little bit haywire with one team chasing points, but I like first half under 22.5.
Yeah, a low scoring total, 43.5 for the total here on the game. First half under, I like it. I'm looking at a lot of unders today, especially in props, which, Brian, you know the way to my heart. It's props. You've got a nice SGP for us around 4-1, and it's prime time. There's only one game, so we've got to get some action down, and everyone loves those SGPs. What you got?
Yeah, so I was thinking about going with the Texans, but once we find out Davis Mills is playing and you look at this Bills team, they can't stop the run at all. But the Texans are dead last in the NFL in success rate. So that's why I just drew up a same game parlay for this one. It's plus 393. The Bills to win on the money line. I can't see Josh Allen losing this game. I have Allen for an anytime touchdown. He has 10 rushing touchdowns on the season, including a couple in that game last week. I don't think the Bills, even though they have James Cooks, are going to be able to run the ball successfully just with the running back runs. So I think they get Allen involved. I have Allen over his prop at 33.5. He had 40 last week. And then you look at it, Cam Ward had 33, Lawrence had 35, Nix had 36. You kind of have to use your quarterback in the run game, a scramble, something. And Allen's been one of the best rushing quarterbacks since he entered the NFL. And then Nico Collins, 60 receiving yards. Last two games with Davis Mills, 15 targets and 10 targets. He's going to throw it a lot to the best player. I think that the Texans will be behind. I don't think they're going to be able to run, despite the fact that the Bills have been so bad in the run game. So I think if you look at it, I think this is going to have to be a Superman performance with Josh Allen, even though he's not going to have much competition on the other side with the Texans offense. That Texans offense can't move the ball at all, and the Bills defense is putrid. So I'm just going to play this same game parlay rather than picking a side.
It does feel like we've hit the Davis Mills era of, okay, he's had a couple of weeks where he's padded some stats, but getting a Bills defense that's going to be really tough for him. And the Bills, they have actually allowed the second least completions per game. I love to play under on completions, over on pass attempts. And in this case, because I like an under, Davis Mills under his 19.5 completions. It already went from 20.5 down to 19.5 since yesterday morning. He had 27 and 26 in the last couple of weeks. So why is this number so low, and why is it going lower? Because of the Bills' top 10 pass D, especially in completions allowed to these quarterbacks. And just looking at some of the stats, there is only one quarterback this year, one, who has gone over his completions prop against Buffalo. That was Drake May. He went over a 21.5 completions prop with 22. So it was a very close call, but we all know Davis Mills is not competing at an MVP Drake May type level. I've also got a linebacker prop. Defensive player props are my favorite way to play primetime. The Houston linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair, over 7.5 total tackles, is just over even money. It's about plus 105. He's hit this in 3 straight primetime games and 5 of his last 7 primetime games dating back to 2023. So with a player that does well in prime time, on a defense that's probably going to be on the field a decent amount with the steam on the Bills, I'm going to go with the over 7.5 total tackles for Al-Shaair. So you said, Brian, that you were leaning more towards Houston, but you were a little nervous about the Texans with Davis Mills. So does that mean that you lean now towards the Bills, or you just wouldn't want to lay that many points on the road?
Yeah, I don't like that many points on the road because I've seen that Bills offense at times struggle unless Josh Allen carries it. And the reason I'm just against Houston in this game is Davis Mills, like, he has so many passing attempts, but the yards per attempt have been bad. And I think, to your point, they're going to try to run the football, because if you're not doing that against the Bills, it's probably the wrong idea, considering you look at that Bills defense. We just saw Sean Tucker a couple of weeks ago go over 200. Achan ran all over them. So this should be the week that the Texans ideally get their run game going. But if you look at the pass block and win rates from ESPN, they're 32nd in the NFL. There's only 32 teams in run block win rates. So I can't bet on the Texans because that offense has been so inept. That's why I don't like the points with the Bills, but I would definitely think they end up winning this game. I mean, this is desperation time for Josh Allen and this team, considering some of the games that they dropped. And if they don't win this one, they got no chance to win the division.
It's going to be a big game, especially with Buffalo having to play this short week. And then you've got the New England Patriots, who we'll talk about getting those Cincinnati Bengals coming up. Raheem, I know that you didn't write in the chat. I was looking at the chat for the anytime touchdowns. I didn't really love an anytime touchdown score either. Is there someone you're going to throw into the hat or not?
No. I'm betting against human achievements today. So with me betting against human achievements today, taking the first half under, I'm not giving out an anytime touchdown. I'm hoping that this is a 3-3 game. That's what
you want 3-3. You want this thing 3-3, going to OT and staying tied. That's Thursday Night Football at its time.
That's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the ugliest game ever, uglier than a masterpiece sneaker. I don't want any touchdowns. So I'm not giving out an anytime touchdown because I don't think you're going to get a ton of scores. And I'm not going to force one. So
I'm standing in solidarity with you. I didn't give one either. The only one that stood out to me was potentially Woody Marks, solely because the Bills have allowed a lot of rushing touchdowns this year. Brian, anyone stand out to you for an anytime touchdown score?
Besides Allen, who I put in the same game parlay, it would probably be Woody Marks, just because we've seen the Bills have really strayed. Sean Tucker had a bunch of touchdowns in that game a couple of weeks ago. So that would be the one that I would go with. Maybe Nico Collins, just because of the fact that if they fall behind, they're going to have to throw the football. But a lot of this comes down to me on the Houston side is just who the quarterback is. That's why I don't want to play a lot of props with that team besides Collins, because it's obvious to throw it to that guy. It's just whenever you have a backup, they tend to overthrow the ball to the number one receiver on the team. And we have seen that so far with Nico Collins. Not that I wouldn't suggest doing that, but it just doesn't feel like the Texans offense has much of a chance to put up points in this game, despite the ineptitude of the Bills defense.
So if I had to give out one, if I absolutely had to
Oh,
give,
now he's coming around. Now he's coming
if
around.
I absolutely had to give out one, I would go with Khalil Shakir plus 310. He just had a baby this week. He missed a couple days of practice. We all know that when guys have babies, they tend to, you've been watching sports for quite a while. When guys have babies, they tend to deliver a A+ performance. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's something about having a child. They feel a little bit
It's
more
dad
motivated.
strength.
So maybe Khalil Shakir at plus 310 is probably a good look. You go back and you look at a lot of guys in sports. Fred VanVleet, he had the series of his life against the Milwaukee Bucks the year the Toronto Raptors won a championship after having a baby. So maybe you take a flyer on him, but as a whole, I'm rooting for human achievement, and I want a 6-3 game.
Raheem wants some dad strength, but he also wants a low scoring game, and I don't blame him. This total is super low. So that game kicks off at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. How should we bet the biggest games of the week? And this week, there actually are big games that are really good games if you're a fan. As a sports bettor, we're going to tell you exactly how to be entertained. Coming up next here on The Ringer Gambling Show. It's The Ringer Gambling Show, sponsored by FanDuel with Raheem Palmer, Brian Barrett. I'm the prep queen, Ariel Epstein. The primetime big games of the week are actually so good that I'm interested as a fan and a viewer to see what teams are legit and what aren't, because there are teams that are now going up against contenders. And now we're going to find out if they're pretenders or contenders themselves, like the Indianapolis Colts, who every week it just feels like, okay, at some point the Colts are going to fall back to what they were, and Daniel Jones will turn into a pumpkin, but it just hasn't happened. The book has the Chiefs at -3.5. Not even just 3. As the home favorite, they're getting 3.5. The total is high at 49.5, guys. Brian, I'll start with you. How much do you have faith in the Colts going into Arrowhead this week?
I have no faith in the Colts going into Arrowhead for a couple of reasons. I'd love to see the demise of the Chiefs, as somebody that, of course, has rooted for the Patriots my entire life. Seeing the Chiefs being compared to the Patriots dynasty, I'd love to see them. I mean, I don't know when Brady's been 5-5 in his career, but the thing that troubles me is just Daniel Jones is still the quarterback of the Colts. So I would lean and I would take the Chiefs to cover the 3.5. You look at these one-score games, Daniel Jones is a front runner. In the games that have been decided by one score, he has 7 interceptions. Those are all the interceptions that he has on the season. His passer rating in one-score games is 87.5, which if you look at that, where it would rank this season, it'd be right in between Tua Tagovailoa and Spencer Rattler. So essentially in a close game, Daniel Jones plays like the quarterback that he's been for the majority of his career. And then I know they lost off a bye last week, which is shocking to see with Andy Reid, but Indy's red zone defense is 24th. They give up touchdowns 62.9% of the time. And KC's red zone offense, still good. They score 65.9% of the times as it pertains to touchdowns. On fourth down, which they're going to go for it in this game because these are must-win games now for the Chiefs the rest of the season. They are losing all these tiebreakers to the other AFC teams that are in the hunt for the wild card. They're 76.2% on fourth down. They're good on third down as well. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win this game. I just can't buy this is the way they go out. That Patrick Mahomes loses a home game to Daniel Jones, despite the sort of great season that he's had for his standards.
So the problem with this game is that there's a huge mismatch here. And it's the Indianapolis Colts rushing offense with Jonathan Taylor, which is first in EPA per play and first in rushing success rate, against the Chiefs rushing defense. They are a rushing funnel at this point in time. You look at the Chiefs rushing defense, they're 24th in EPA per play and 17th in rushing success rate. So while you guys mentioned that, I think Ariel mentioned Daniel Jones turning into a pumpkin, and he kind of has turned into a pumpkin the last couple of weeks. You look at his game against Pittsburgh, you look at his game against Atlanta. Well, Jonathan Taylor put his team on his back last week against Atlanta, and I think he's capable of doing the same thing in this game. And I look at this Chiefs offense, and there's something off. I don't know what it is specifically, but it appears that this team is just not as explosive as previous incarnations, not including last year. They keep finding themselves in one-score games. Teams are playing that two-shell deep coverage. And this is probably going to be the best the Colts defense has looked all year long. You get Charvarius Ward back. You got Sauce Gardner. So I think you can throw out a lot of the full season metrics on this team in the red zone and this team defensively in general, because this is the first time you're going to see Charvarius Ward and Sauce Gardner on the field at the same time. So I'm not going to play this game. Obviously, I have a ton of respect for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the pedigree that they've shown throughout the last seven or 8 years. But I think at plus 3.5, the value is all on Indianapolis. It feels like they're forcing you to lay a premium in order to take Kansas City. How many people this week are going to say, oh, I can't see Kansas City missing the playoffs? Oh, this is a must-win game. Well, the one thing that we've always known, if you find yourself in a must-win game, you must not be that good. So that can't be the rationale for taking the Chiefs this week. I'm not going to take the Chiefs, but if you're going to play a side, I would look for taking the plus 3.5 on the Indianapolis Colts. You look at the Chiefs. They're 0-5 in one-score games. How many one-score games did they win last year? So this could be a 3-point game. And we know games land on 15% of the time. So if you got to play a side, take the Colts at plus 3.5. But I'm looking at that total. I think this could go under. I think, 49.5. It was 50.5. You saw some steam to the under. That's the direction I'd be looking.
I like the point you brought up about the defensive changes, because we kind of got caught with that last week with the Dallas Cowboys. Your Cowboys, Raheem, who got better defensively, adding all these key pieces. The line never adjusted to all these added players on the Cowboys off defense the same way. It doesn't feel like they're adjusting to what you're mentioning with the Colts D. However, with a high total, it is a great opportunity for props. So Patrick Mahomes at home has gone over his completions prop in 3 of 5 home games. However, against teams that are bottom 10 against the pass, dating back to the beginning of last year, Mahomes is averaging 26.5 completions per game against those bad pass Ds. His prop is 23.5. So I like the over on Mahomes in a must-win game, 23.5 completions against a Colts D that has allowed the 3rd most completions per game. In fact, the only 2 quarterbacks to go under their completions prop against the Colts this year were Michael Penix Jr. and Tua Tagovailoa, who I will deem Patrick Mahomes much better than, especially in Arrowhead. So I'm going to go with the over on 23.5 pass completions for Mahomes. And you mentioned the run game for Jonathan Taylor and how great he's been. I was actually pretty shocked to see just notable home road splits. He's averaging 137 rushing yards per game in Indy. However, just under 80 rushing yards a game when on the road this year. And the Chiefs have been a top 10 run D. So with this number hitting 90 for a rushing yards prop, I would say under 91.5 rushing yards, especially because 63% of running backs have gone under their rushing yards prop against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know that the Chiefs are going to try to make Daniel Jones throw the football and eliminate their running back, Jonathan Taylor, from the game. So again, high total 49.5, Chiefs laying 3.5 in that spot. And Raheem, I mentioned your Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are hosting the Eagles. And before we even get to your play, again, total 47.5, Eagles laying 3.5 in Dallas at Jerry World. How do your Cowboys typically play the week before Thanksgiving?
I don't know. I
think are they someone that the week before Thanksgiving, knowing it's a Thanksgiving game coming up on Thursday, that you felt, okay, maybe it's a short week coming up? But again, this is a huge spot because it is a divisional game, obviously, against Philadelphia Eagles.
I've never seen it be, I don't have the numbers offhand. So it's unfortunate. If you would have told me this before, I'd have looked
Sorry,
up the
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I was just curious.
From what I've
sometimes
seen,
as a fan, you're like,
I've never seen it as a spot where they're distracted.
Okay.
And I've never seen it. And
it's not going to come into the way you handicap the game.
Yeah, it's not going to impact that at all. I actually think so. I took the Cowboys on Monday night. I attended the game.
Ooh.
And yeah, so I was on the Cowboys big. I also suggested everybody take the Cowboys. On Monday's show, I suggested Cowboys minus 9.5 at plus 240. My rationale is that obviously the Raiders are pretty bad, but you never bet against tragedy. I listed out numerous examples of teams dealing with tragedy or players dealing with tragedy and them bouncing back. I actually think that's a thing that can galvanize this Cowboys team moving forward. They're going to be playing with a little bit of a spark. Now, they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, so this is going to be a spot where they're motivated. Particularly when you look at the first game of the year, they probably should have won that game. they were driving to take the lead, and Miles Sanders has a fumble, and no one ever scores again for the rest of the game. And obviously, CD Lamb has a drop. Like, there were multiple opportunities for the Cowboys to win that game, and now you get them at home, where the Cowboys are averaging 30 points a game, well, 40 points a game. Now, I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I gave this out on Monday at 50 and a half, the under. It's now down to 47 and a half. I like the under in this matchup because you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense is incredible, absolutely incredible right now. You add Jalen Phillips to a team that already had Jalen Carter, and they're able to rush the passer and absolutely dominate. You saw what they did against the Detroit Lions. It was like a ball constrictor, just sucking the life out of that offense. They turned the ball over 5 times. So I look at that and I just don't feel like the Cowboys offense is going to be the same. But meanwhile, the biggest problem here is that the Philadelphia Eagles, their offense, I don't think they could score against UPenn, Drexel, Temple. Like, they scored 26 points the last 2 weeks. And you look at the Detroit Lions, they had all of those injuries on defense, and they still only managed to score 16 points. So we spoke earlier about the upgrades to the Cowboys defense, adding Quenya Williams. I don't know how the Eagles are going to, put up 25 points. I mean, they put up 24 in week 1, and their offense was much better then. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I also like the Dallas Cowboys plus 3.5. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game where both teams struggle to score. And ultimately, you look at the Cowboys offense at home, they are much better than they are on the road. Also, you look at the fact that Lane Johnson is going to be missing this game for the Philadelphia Eagles. So at 3.5, I think this is a game that could go either way. The Eagles have won 7 one-score games this year. At some point, they have to regress. There's only so long fake thugs can pretend. So give me my beloved Dallas Cowboys plus 3.5.
Oh
And give me the
boy. Oh boy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What you got, Brian?
I'm with you, Raheem. I was thinking about taking the Cowboys outright, but I like them with the 3.5 for a couple of reasons. I understand everything you're saying about that Eagles defense, but it's about the Eagles offense. I mean, Saquon's still under 4 yards per carry a game.
Mhm.
And you mentioned Quinnen Williams. He's number 1 in run block win rate in the entire NFL among defensive linemen. So he immediately is going to help that putrid Cowboys defense. And then you look at this Eagles offense, they're 24th in success rate, but the last 2 weeks, that's been down to 35.8%, which is 31st behind only or in front of only the Cleveland Browns. And let me remind you, Shedeur Sanders completed 4 of his 16 passes last week. That's the only team that the past 2 weeks has been behind the Eagles in success rate. And on first downs, that number's down to 35.3%. So essentially, that's telling you that nearly 65% of the time, the Eagles are facing a 2nd and 7 or worse, and Jalen Hurts is their quarterback who has thrown under 200 yards per game or under 200 yards 60% of the time this season. And I know the Cowboys defense has been bad. I do like the addition, even if from a team building standpoint, I don't think it was the best thing to give away the capital you gave away. I do think Quinnen Williams immediately helps the team, and he's a good player. And I think the Cowboys offense does just enough. Dak's had a good season, 21-6 in terms of the TDs to interceptions. And I understand that Lamb, I think this could be a motivational factor for Lamb after having the drop against the Eagles in week 1. And that was Pickens' first game as a Cowboy. We saw last week, and I know it's the Raiders. The Raiders are putrid, but we've seen it against good teams at the NFL too. I know the Broncos beat them and they didn't have a great offensive game, but it's very difficult to match up with both Pickens and with CD Lamb, especially when Dak is so good playing on schedule. And I don't think that this is going to be a situation where the Eagles generate such a big lead where Dallas has to come back. That's just not going to happen. So I think 3.5 is too much. And the other thing that I would say is this: it's not just what's going on the field with the Eagles. Now you got this big write-up in The Athletic about the issues that guys have with Jalen Hurts. I mean, A.J. Brown is basically saying this stuff publicly. I can't remember a team that's been this good in terms of the record, but you look at some of the outlying metrics on offense, they've been that bad, and you have all this drama going on. At some point, I think it's going to catch up to him, and I think it's going to happen in this game against Dallas.
Yeah, you know what? I got to add to that because you look at all of the division winners at this point in time, everybody who's first place in the division. The Eagles have the lowest point differential. They have a plus 33 point differential. You compare them against every other team, well, except for the Bears, because the Bears,
Yeah, negative.
yeah, but or in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. But for the most part, their point differential says that they should be around a 5-win team at this point in time. 5.9 exactly. That's how many games they should have won. And yet they're 8-2. So at some point in time, that has to come back to earth. And you look at the Eagles, they've dominated the division all year long. They've won every division. Well, they lost one game against the Giants, but for the most part, they have 3 division games left. 1 against the Cowboys and 2 against the Commanders. I just don't think that they're just going to go through this season and they're not going to have any more competitive division games. I think this is the game where the Cowboys are going to get up for this one. And honestly, I'm starting to think that you could sprinkle something on the Cowboys money line. I think they may win this game outright.
Oof. It is a huge game for the division. Dallas catching 3.5 total. 47.5. I'm going with the prop, which goes completely against everything that you guys have said, but the Cowboys could still win.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. When I look at divisional games, I like to look at what didn't happen in game 1 because typically it's a different game script. You're going to see a completely new game against a division rival in game 2. Jalen Hurts had 0 touchdown passes in game 1 against Dallas. Now he's going up against the Cowboys D that has allowed the most passing touchdowns in the league. In fact, 70% of quarterbacks have gone over 1.5 passing touchdowns when facing the Cowboys. And even though I don't have much faith in Jalen Hurts after seeing his numbers this year, even against bad pass Ds, he hasn't done very well. However, he had 2 touchdown passes in 4 of his last 6 games against the Cowboys. And one of those that he didn't was the first matchup this year. I say he has at least 2 passing touchdowns in this game, a total of 47.5. I know it's been dropping, but Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing TDs, and you guys could still get the Dallas Cowboys to win the game outright. But maybe it'll be a shootout. I don't know. I don't have a say or a feel for the total, but clearly I'm looking for 2 touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. This spread is pretty big, and I'm actually pretty shocked. And you guys might not be after talking about how bad the Bucs point differential is, but the Rams laying 6.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another high total of 49.5. I'll start with you, Brian. Is it too many points for the Bucs?
I don't think so. I like the Rams in this game for a couple of reasons. So the Bucs have major issues right now, and the Panthers, by the way, they're going to be kicking themselves because they lost the game 2 weeks ago to the Saints that some people may or may not have had in their survivor pool to get them kicked out of that. But the Carolina Panthers could easily have been winning this division or at least have a chance to win the division if they didn't blow that game. They still do. And the Tampa defense, and I get they've been going up against really good quarterbacks. Drake May and the Patriots put up 435. The Bills put up 414. This team is giving up 241 passing yards per game, 27th. They are 19th in pressure rate, 19th in pressure rate at 21%. Yet they blitz 31.1% of the time, the third highest rate. So they're blitzing all the time and they're not getting pressure. And if you want to blitz Stafford, well, good luck. He has 19 touchdowns against the blitz, by far the most of the NFL, 9 more than any other quarterback. And if you don't get to him and the pocket's clean, he has a 125.2 passer rating, which is the third best. I just don't see how Tampa slows down this offense right now. And this is a Rams defense, by the way, that has an 83.4 passer rating against, which is 5th. They give up 3.9 yards per carry, which is 5th. They're number 1 in the NFL in offensive success rate. They're number 2 in EPA per play on defense behind only Houston. So basically they have a top 3 offense and a top 3 defense. You can argue they have a top 2 offense and a top 2 defense. I know it's a big number. I don't trust Tampa to stop them, and I don't think that Baker Mayfield and company, they're going to have much help from their run game in this game. I think it's a blowout. Like, I think this could be one of those games. I know Raheem says this sometimes with win totals, but this could almost be an alt line where you look at like a plus 9.5 or something. I know the Rams are coming off that high of beating Seattle, but I don't even think they played that well offensively. And that was against a good Seattle defense. Now they get this Tampa defense that is old and slow. You get by Vita Vea. Who's stopping you on that team? The Tampa defense just is not good anymore. And we mentioned it. This team is a fraudulent division winner right now. If they were playing in a different division, good luck to them because they just have such an easy path to the playoffs every year.
So I want to agree with Brian because every single time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have stepped up in class, they've gotten dominated. And you can look at this over the last 2 years. Obviously, last week against the Buffalo Bills, they step up in class, the Bills cover. You look at the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles were covering the entire game. It was never really a game, even though Baker Mayfield tried to pull some heroics and pull a rabbit out of the hat and make it a game. It was never really a game. You look at the game against the Detroit Lions, it was never a game. So you can kind of expect the same thing here. The problem is the spot for me. I don't like the spot for the Rams. They're coming off of a highly emotional win against the Seattle Seahawks. That was the game of the week last week. And now you have to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this could be a game where they're just trying to get in and out. So I don't want to lay anything on this game. I don't like the spot at all. So it's a stay away from me. If I had to play this though, this would be a good teaser leg. You tease the Rams down from 6.5 to basically a half a point, and you find another leg. That's how I would play it, but I'm staying away from this just because of the spot.
I agree with the teaser leg. I know that JJ would be yelling at us, "Don't fade Baker. He loves the Bucks." But I don't know about this week. I'm just laughing at JJ for his love for the Bucks this year. Matt Stafford, he's got a really good matchup for himself because the Bucks have allowed the 5th most passing yards per game this season. So Stafford over 245.5 passing yards. He's averaging just under 271 passing yards at home when in prime time. And he's averaging 278 passing yards against bottom 10 pass Ds. That goes up to 309 passing yards a game when against a bottom 10 pass D at home. So Matt Stafford getting a Bucks D that allowed 60% of quarterbacks to go over their passing yards prop. Matt Stafford at home, we're going over 245.5 passing yards. Anything else for any of these big primetime games, guys, before we move into props? Nothing? Okay, we're good to go. Queen's Corner now. I've got 5 props for you guys. I'll go through them quickly, and you guys tell me if any of them stand out to you. Starting with the Lions, who are laying 10.5 points. Jahmyr Gibbs over 74.5 rushing yards. He's getting the Giants, who have allowed the 3rd most rushing yards per game, and he's averaging Gibbs 88 rushing yards a game against bottom 10 run D since the start of last year. That's prop 1. Prop 2. The quarterback for the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, going to have to scramble. He is also close to a touchdown underdog. Under 17.5 rushing yards, though, against Green Bay. I think the Packers can find a way to contain him. He's averaging 22. However, the Packers have allowed the least rushing yards per game to quarterbacks this year. 2 of 3 divisional games for McCarthy went under. So it looks like these divisional rivals are trying to contain the Vikings quarterback. Third is probably a very public play, which I hate, but Taylor Swift's fiance, Travis Kelce, to go over 49.5 receiving yards against the Colts. The Colts' 2nd most receiving yards per game allowed to tight ends this year. And Kelce's at home, going over in 4 of 5 home games this season. Geno Smith, the Vegas quarterback, has been an absolute abysmal quarterback this year. And I'd say he goes under 218.5 passing yards. He's averaging 215 since the start of last year against the bottom 10 pass D. Believe it or not, Cleveland has allowed the least passing yards per game to quarterbacks. Finally, Baker Mayfield over 33.5 pass attempts. He's averaging 36 on the road in prime time this year, going over in 6 of his last 9 primetime games. The Rams, 5th most pass attempts per game. And if you guys do feel that the Bucs will be trailing, then Baker is going to have to throw the football. Brian, any of those stand out to you?
I really like the Gibbs one just because ever since Dan Campbell took back the play calling duties, and I know he didn't play well. Nobody played well last week for the Lions, but Dan Campbell's been relying more on Gibbs. And if you look at it too, like I would be tempted to go plus 280 for 100 for Gibbs. He's only been over this twice, but it was been in the past couple of weeks. He did it against the Bucs. He did it against Washington. And you mentioned how bad the Giants defense is. It's almost 150 rushing yards per game. And we know Gibbs, you could argue he's the most explosive running back in the NFL. So if he rips off one of those 60-yard rushes, you're looking at just 40 more yards. So I think Gibbs goes well over that 74.5 line. And just, you look at that Lions team, we talk about teams that are in desperate spots. It's crazy to say right now they're outside of the playoff picture. And Dan Campbell's been known to run up the score. I think if he has an opportunity to run up the score, he will, even if it's against an interim coach.
Do you think he should still be calling plays?
I guess why not? If like it felt like the story that came out of there was the team was upset with the way that Morton was calling the game. So if the team's upset about that, and that first week that they took away, that he took back to play calling duties, it felt like they were throwing the ball a lot more to Williams as well. So maybe that was part of the contention, is we need more explosive plays. So I don't have an issue with it. I think it's pretty cool that Dan Campbell is like this rah-rah motivational coach. And then all of a sudden you see him, he's got the play sheet in front of him, like, oh yeah, this guy can actually call plays too. I think he's almost become an underrated coach. And look, right now he's sitting outside the playoffs, but he almost became underrated because of Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell's the one that brought Ben Johnson over. Remember, he was with them in Miami as well, and Miami got rid of Ben Johnson. So I think Campbell's almost become underrated as a head coach because of his personality.
I would run through a brick wall for that head coach.
Would you bite a kneecap?
Would I what?
Would you bite a kneecap for him?
I mean, I guess maybe. I don't know. I sure. Let's break all our teeth. Let's break every bone in our body and let's eat kneecaps for Dan Campbell. Who would you run through a brick wall through in this prop list of Queen's Corner, Raheem?
Yeah, I love that Gibbs prop. I think the biggest thing is you look at the Giants. They are 32nd in rushing EPA per play, and they're 31st in rushing success rate on defense. You look at some of the numbers that running backs have put up. Christian McCaffrey, 28 carries, 106 yards. Omarion Hampton, 12 carries, 128 yards. You look at, what's my guy's name? DeAndre Swift, 13 carries, 80 yards. Like Brian Barrett said, and I was going to say this as well, you can go to the alternate markets for this, because I think Jahmyr Gibbs plus 100 yards, that might be good money. I think you could, like, honestly, when it comes to, like, I almost been playing this every week. Just fading the Giants rushing defense and just taking the alternate props on these running backs, because they cannot stop the run at all. So I love this one.
Yeah, 60% of running backs going over their rushing yard prop this year against the Giants. So that over, definitely very profitable. You know what else is profitable? Bodega Locks. I know that the social media world was saying we are very mid, but guess what? It's better to be at the top of mid than the bottom of mid, and Bodega Locks is at the top. So we're going to have Ringer 107. How do you pick these games against the spread? Coming up next here on the Ringer Gambling Show. It's the Ringer Gambling Show, brought to you by FanDuel, which also brings you our Ringer 107. And this is Team Bodega Locks. Brian Barrett filling in for John Yastrzemski, Raheem Palmer. I'm the prop queen, Ariel Epstein. JJ is out in Madrid after enjoying his Miami Dolphins overtime win in Spain. So we're going to do Ringer 107, which is brought to you by FanDuel. It is our pick'em contest where we all here at the Ringer get to choose against the spread. And right now, I'm going to just go through the standings. Team Ringer Fantasy is in the lead, tied with us, Bodega Locks, 27 and 28, which we have to get above 500 again. Then it's the BS House, the Handy Capos, and Team Ringer NFL. So all of this brought to you by FanDuel. We're going to lock in our Week 12 picks for Team Bodega Locks. JJ already gave us the New Orleans Saints, so we could talk about that in a little bit. Raheem, I'll start with you. Which team are you throwing in?
JJ actually stole my pick because I gave this out on Monday first. But
he knew to text us early.
Yeah, it's all good. But I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I already spoke about this game earlier. Plus 3.5. I think this line should be 2.5. That's where my model has it. So I'm going to the Dallas Cowboys to add to JJ adding the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, so JJ Saints, Raheem Cowboys. Brian, what you got?
I like the Patriots. I know this line has been fluctuating around. It was 8, then it was 7, and as right now, it's 6.5, and I think they're looking out for the Burrow situation. A couple of things to that. First of all, Burrow has been terrible in season openers the last 3 years, and even if he does play, this is kind of like a season opener because he's been out for months now. Before the injury, he was 21 of 36, so under 60% passing. 2 years ago in the opener, 60.9%. 3 years ago, 45.2%. And the biggest reason for this is I just don't see how Cincinnati stops the Patriots. This isn't hyperbolic. They're one of the worst defenses we've ever seen, and they don't have Trey Hendrickson. They're giving up 33.4 points per game, 4 worse than any other team. 14 sacks, the second fewest. They're 31st in passing yards per game against, and they're 32nd in rushing yards per game against. So even if Burrow plays, I don't see how they're slowing down Drake May in this offense. It's now getting healthier, getting Booty back into the lineup with Stefan Diggs, and this should be a big day for Travion Henderson as well.
Oh boy. Okay, I was gonna go Bengals, so I'll give you Patriots.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm mad about this one, only because I think this number is going to go down. So it's like we're getting the worst of it. We're getting the worst of it by far. Like, and then you also look at the fact
I don't
that
think he's gonna play.
No,
nah,
I think Burrow's gonna.
he's
If
going to
anything, he's
play.
gonna play Thanksgiving.
I think he's going to play this game.
You do.
Yeah,
So
I'm.
you think this is gonna be a Brock Purdy situation though, or you think he'll actually be able to make it then to play a short week as well?
No
Yeah.
Chase either. That's the
Yeah,
other
no
thing.
Jamar Chase.
But see, I'm not that concerned with Chase. I just think this number it's a little bit too high. Like I think when you look at the Patriots, like if I'm looking at my model, I have this closer to about 4. I think the Patriots, like, it's one of those things where you kind of got to bet on the comp. How many games have the Patriots won in a row? They've, what, was that 9 in a row at this point in time? Well, 8, yeah, they won 8 in a row at this point in time. So it's like you're getting to a point where you're buying the Patriots at the peak of their market. They only won by 5 against the Buccaneers in a game where they kind of dominated. You play the Jets on a Thursday night football game, and the Jets were kind of in that game. So at some point in time, this is a market. They're not going to just keep giving you free money on the Patriots every single week. So I kind of look at this game and I'm just like, all right, what were they laying against the Buccaneers?
They were dogs.
They were that's my point. So we know that this Buccaneers team isn't that good. Minus the Buccaneers laying 2.5 against the Patriots. How much better are the Buccaneers than the Bengals? Because this line, the Buccaneers can't be minus 2.5 against the Patriots, and then the Bengals be plus 6.5 at home. It just doesn't compute because the gap between the Buccaneers and the Bengals just isn't that wide. But I mean, this is your pick, so we got to ride with it. But I totally disagree.
It's 6.5 right now. So
Mhm.
the biggest thing to me though is just like I can't believe how bad that defense is. And they have like Shamar Stewart supposed to be a star, not even playing, went down with an injury. Hendrickson, who led the league in sacks, not playing. They don't have good linebackers. Like this should be a game where the Patriots can run. I just don't see a way they stop them.
I think this is a game where, I mean, if Burrow's coming back, I think this is a game where honestly,
In fact,
Bengals
I
can win this.
actually wasn't even predicting it for it to be the Joe Burrow return game. I was looking at it, even if it's Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is making his last start then, trying to make a case for himself to not clearly, he doesn't seem to want to retire. So I was also playing it on that angle either way. But again, Brian's pick.
I actually think the Bengals can win this game outright.
Wow.
I think the Patriots are in a spot where they've been playing above their head for like it's the NFL. You're just not going to just win every game. And I actually think the Patriots are in a spot to where they could lose 3 of the next 4 games.
Well, that's where the Patriots and the Drake May MVP conversation is going to get very interesting because he has to face 2 tough teams. I think it was Buffalo and Baltimore, I think, coming up. So if he has those 2 games that he wins both of those, then sure, I'll make the case for his MVP. If he loses both, or if he loses any of the other easy games that Drake May has coming up on the slate, how can you argue for the team that's had one of the easiest strength of schedules in the history of the NFL? But they're going into Cincy. And Brian's putting in those Patriots at minus 6.5, which is what it's currently at FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm gonna ask you guys this question because I want to lay hefty points. There are 2 really good running backs who are going to take the field against really bad run Ds, and I think Raheem's laughing because he knows where I'm going. San Francisco 49ers laying 7 right now against the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, revenge game against his former team. A Panthers run D that's been bottom 5 against the run for years. Or we go the other route of the Lions, who are laying a hefty 10.5 at home, where Jared Goff loves to play and also has a great running back in Gibbs, dominating time of possession against another bad run D in the Giants. So, Raheem, you're shaking your head laughing. Which of those running backs would you lay points with?
I would go with Detroit.
Okay.
And
Brian, you good for laying it with Detroit?
I agree on Detroit. I think they'll blow them out. And especially, too, because it's at home. Goff's a totally different quarterback. And when he can play on schedule and they're not chasing points and they can protect them, he's usually a good quarterback. So I think they win this one big.
Yeah, and I
I
was
think the
looking at all the other
49ers are such an enigma because so last week I was on the 49ers. It was my best bet for the Ringer NFL pregame show. I think they got a chance to beat up on a really, really, really bad Arizona Cardinals defense, which was just everybody was in the hospital. And this Carolina defense is surprisingly good. And I gave out the Carolina Panthers at 18-1 to win the division. They're now down to like 5-1 at this point in time. I think this is a spot where you're going to get more of a competitive game than the market actually thinks. And it's so funny because the 49ers have alternated wins and losses all year long. They won a game, lost a game, won a game, lost a game. They won last week. I don't really want to be laying points with the 49ers in this spot after what they did last week. I think this is the time to kind of sell on them. I'm not saying buy Carolina, but this is the time to kind of just stay away from them this week.
I was waiting for one of these two, the Giants or the Panthers, to get blown out because both of them have been playing competitive, getting teams that are really tough opponents when you've got a bad run D like the Giants and the Niners do. So the Panthers do. So we are going to lay 10.5, which is a hefty number for the Detroit Lions, but they're at home. And honestly, if we could and it wasn't pick 'em, I would say team total over for the Lions. That would be my actual play on that game. But we're going to go lay 10.5 with the Lions. Raheem, any other side you want to throw into the hat? We need one more between the three of us.
This week is so tough. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. This week is really, really, really tough. I think the game that stands out to me, and I don't necessarily know. See, I was gonna say the Raiders, but that number has moved to 4. I think the problem I'm having with this game.
I've got a ton of sharp friends who love the Raiders this week. They all texted in the chat they bet it on Sunday. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I mean, it's a toilet bowl.
It is. And see, the biggest thing is that Shador is like awful. Like, I'm not sure that he's ready to be an NFL quarterback. And this Browns defense doesn't travel on the road. You look at what they've given up on the road, they're clearly not the same defense on the road that they are at home. So that was a game I thought of, but at the same time, I don't want to lay 4 points with the Raiders because I look at this as a team who they have a bad offensive line, and we know Myles Garrett can get to the quarterback. So this is probably gonna be a stay away from me, but that's one that popped up in my head.
Brian, what do you want to throw out there?
All right, so I threw out the Chiefs and the Rams earlier. The one other game, and I know this is dangerous to do, Jacksonville on the road. They're 3-point favorites, and if you look at it, they're in the top 10 in success rate on defense, and the Cardinals are in the bottom 10 in the NFL in success rate on defense. I just think Jacksonville does just enough to win this game, and maybe it's a 6-point game or they win this game by a touchdown because and I know nobody trusts them, but I don't trust the Cardinals offense at all. I think the Jaguars defense is significantly better than the Cardinals offense. And I think Trevor Lawrence can do just enough, even though I don't trust the guy. I would lean Jacksonville over Arizona.
We have 1 minute. Raheem, out of those 3 that Brian just named, which one do you like best?
Honestly, I'm gonna let you pick.
Oh boy. Okay, so you said Rams, Chiefs, and Jags. I'm going to tell you the one selfish reason why I'm not taking the Jags. I have now made us take the Cardinals in 2 straight weeks in this Ringer 107 pick'em, and they have been blown out each time. So I'm going to tell you, we are going to pick the Jags and the Cardinals will cover. So I can't do it. I can't condone it because I know what's going to happen. I want to stay away from that game.
See, I don't like to so I gave out the Jags last week, and the Jags blew out.
We have 30 seconds.
Yeah, they blew them out. And then I was against the Cardinals last week, and the Cardinals got blown out. So I just feel like you're buying these teams at their peak. And I just don't want to buy a team at their peak.
So do we want to go Chiefs?
No Chiefs. Please, no Chiefs.
Okay. So then you want to go Rams? Rams against the Bucks, laying 6.5. It's so messy.
We got to come back after commercial and let them know.
Okay, we'll go to commercial break because we only have about 15 seconds left. We'll make our last pick for Ringer 107, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and our best bets are coming up next here on the Ringer Gambling Show. Again, sponsored by FanDuel here every Thursday, and Bodega Locks. We are the team to beat. It's the Ringer Gambling Show, and in the break, we finally decided on a team pick. We're going with Seattle minus 13.5. This might be ugly. So Saints, Cowboys, Lions, Patriots, and the Seattle Seahawks. So we're laying 2 double-digit spreads. This should be very interesting. I'll go to Brian. Brian, what is your best bet going into the weekend?
Desmond Bane over 30.5 points, rebounds, assists against the Clippers. He's had 34 in each of the last 2 games without Paulo Banchero, so I think he goes well over this tonight against a sad Clippers team.
Raheem?
I'm going to go with that first half under on the Houston Texans, under 22.5. I don't think you get a lot of points. Like I said before, we're betting against human achievement. That's how we're going to do this.
I'm betting against human achievement as well because Davis Mills will turn into a pumpkin today. Under 19.5 completions is around even money. He had 27 and 26 already to start his season, yet it's down to 19.5. It was 20.5 yesterday. Buffalo, second least completions per game allowed. Only one quarterback has gone over their completion prop this year when facing this Bills defense, and that was Drake May, who went over 21.5 completions with 22. So under 19.5 completions for Davis Mills today, around even money. Ringer 107, we did it. We somehow, in the time restraint, found a way to come up with 5 picks. So it's Saints, Cowboys, Lions, Patriots, and Seattle. Every Thursday, we are here on the Ringer Gambling Show. It is John Yastrzemski and Raheem Palmer. Today, Brian Barrett filling in. Thank you so much for joining the show. The next Ringer Gambling Show will be tomorrow, Friday. Cousin Sal, Danny Heifetz, and Anthony DeBundo. For here on the Thursday version of the Ringer Gambling Show, good luck to your bets tonight.
Must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 or older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. You must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 or older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York in New York.